Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to another episode of the Autist Circle. You may notice Bleach isn't here today. He usually does the intro. He's out hiding in the woods or something. But as a treat, I brought along my dear friend Yiz. Um, Yiz has her own channel under Yiz the Eunuch, and I don't have the link handy here, but we'll get it in here before the end of the stream. But
You
today,
have
oh,
me
go ahead.
tagged in the description. People can just click on that.
Yeah, that's right. So check out the description to get to Yiz's channel. Yiz does a couple of really great shows. She does a good show on Monday nights called Discordant Dragons, where people get together and talk about the news. She has, I'm fortunate to partake in it every now and then when I can. And I'm very grateful for Yiz for allowing me on there.
Well, hey, man, you're a great guest and you're a good friend. I love having you on. I'm glad you're available so often, too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So today we are talking about Emanuel Leutze, who was the he was the man who painted, as you can see, he painted Washington crossing the Delaware. He painted a lot of stuff. He was a German American romantic artist from the mid 1800s, and really did a lot to flesh out the American myth and help really capture the American spirit in paintings, even while he was in Europe. So we'll jump in here, go to our timeline here, and I'll read my little blurb. So,
Sure.
so while Delacroix, who we talked about last week, he expressed romanticism in the form of color and motion. Leutze expresses it in the form of historical theater. The passion of Delacroix is contrasted in the form of creating emotional drama around history. He's less influential in the history of painting, but in the grand scheme of history, he's far more influential. And as far as the timeline goes, he overlaps the waning end of neoclassicism and the rise of realism. And he takes these influences and combines them to create romantic historical images that stir the hearts and the souls of the people. Leutze takes the older prestige form of history painting and uses it to manufacture American icons. The mid 19th century was really dominated with landscape painters like Bierstadt, who we talked about last season, who created sublime images of the American frontier. And while Leutze gave us heroic and inspiring images of the founders, revolutionary struggles, westward migration, and national destiny. So he stands at the intersection of the European Romantic history painting and American national mythology. He's trained in the German Romantic academic tradition. He used the theatrical composition, heroic gesture, emotional drama to turn historical episodes into public symbols. He did not invent a new style, but he helped create some of the most enduring images of American historical memory, a few of which we'll discuss today. So, and we can see on the timeline here, he overlaps with the Civil War and the revolutions of 1848 that happened in Europe.
A sad time for those of us who are aware of things.
Yeah. Yeah, there was some really there was a lot of upheaval in the early American history, and I think images like the ones he created did a lot to help calm the American spirit and harness us into a direction, a singular direction.
Yeah, I saw several of his paintings in my American art history class because, as I've told you, I went to art school for 3 years and I focused in art history, especially Western art history. And this guy, Lloyd's, came up several times, like especially the George Washington painting. That's one of the ones I remember.
Yeah, he's an incredibly influential painter. So let's I'll jump into his biography here, and we'll go through
Sure,
some
sounds
stuff.
good.
So Emanuel Gottlieb Leutze was born in on May 24th in 1816 in Schwalbisch Gmund in the Kingdom of Württemberg, which is now Germany. His father was Gottlob Heinrich Leutze, who was an artisan and often was identified as a comb maker, and his mother was Christina Katharina Mayer Leutze. The comb maker thing is kind of a it's an interesting aside that ties back to some previous work or some previous artists we've talked about because the early 1800s was like the emergence of the middle class, uh, not through where artisans weren't necessarily rich, but they weren't dirt poor. They were able to provide an okay living for their family. Um, and his family emigrated to the U.S. when he was a child. In 1825, they first settled in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and then eventually in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And while he was young, his father became seriously ill, and he spent a lot of time at his dad's sick bed. And while he was there, he started drawing to occupy the long hours of waiting. And this is kind of the foundation of his first forays into the artistic experience. His father died in 1831 while Emmanuel was around 14. And after his father's passing, it fell to him to help support his mother. And he started painting portraits for people for $5 a piece. And that's one of the ways that he helped support the family was,
Mm.
he was a self-trained artist that started painting portraits and people saw he was good enough to, you know, pay him $5 for one, which wasn't necessarily an insignificant sum in 1831.
Yeah.
So in 1834, he received his first formal instruction from John Reuben Smith, who's this kind of dysgenic looking motherfucker. Um,
Oh my God. He looks like a literal goblin.
I know. I saw that. I was like, wow, this. He's a funny looking
What
dude.
what's going on under his bottom lip there? What is that?
I,
Oh, okay.
man,
All right.
oh, it's a little bow
Those are
tie thing.
oh,
Yeah.
those are little marks that you're making with the mouse. Okay. All right.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Um,
That's okay. But still, he
he
looks like a goblin.
he does. He was an English printmaker and painter. He'd made his way to America around 1807 and began offering instruction to young artists. Um, Leutze's early training starts in Philadelphia and it begins fairly modestly. Uh, as previously stated, his first serious instruction came in 1834 when he studied with Smith. Um, and he had standard academic foundation. He learned line work, proportion, light, form and figure, and structure before attempting larger compositions. After studying with Smith, he worked primarily as a portraitist, and the Smithsonian places him in Washington, D.C. at that time as an itinerant portraitist in 1837. And this is one of his portraits at the time. This is um, the
Wow, that's
Countess.
lovely.
Yeah, from 1838. So he was a really, he was a really good portrait artist.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Portraiture trained him to make people immediately recognizable and emotionally legible. In 1840, his work had attracted enough attention and patrons that helped send him to Europe. Um, he traveled to Europe and enrolled in the Royal Academy of Art in Düsseldorf as a history painter, and that's this building here. However, he always had a relatively anti-academic attitude, and he only studied for a single year under the direction of Friedrich Wilhelm Schadow, who painted this painting here. This is called Mignon. Was done in 1828. I thought it was a neat painting, so I brought it in
So
here.
this painting is not him. This is the director that he trained under.
Yeah, yep. This is the guy
Okay.
who he learned under,
It's still beautiful.
and
It's a beautiful piece.
yeah, it's got a lot of great like the flowers are a really common thing in Baroque paintings, especially around
Mm-hmm.
religious imagery.
Mm-hmm.
He was there. While he was there, he was also influenced by Carl Friedrich Lissig, who painted this landscape painting, which is more similar to the Caspar David Friedrich style of German Romanticism that we talked about a few episodes ago. So
I love this. This is cool.
it's really neat. It is it's one of those paintings that when you see it, you can feel yourself in the image. You can place yourself in the image.
Yeah, like I can smell the air and I can feel the wind. Like this is a beautiful painting.
Right?
Like this is something that would look good on my wall in my house today.
Oh yeah.
Like this is great.
So Philadelphia taught Leutze how to draw and paint people, and Dusseldorf taught him how to turn those people into history. So that'll bring us to the first painting we got here, which is Columbus before the Queen. So
Wow. This is great.
it's a really grand spectacle,
You
and it's
you can
not
definitely know what
oh
I
go
know
ahead.
about art history and the different types of art. You can definitely see the elements of either romantic or neoclassical in this, as well as the bold colors of gold and red that were common in Baroque era paintings as well. Like this is
Yeah,
definitely like his fusion of influences and styles is definitely seen here.
yeah, yeah. He did a good job of really capturing the emotion of the scene and turning it into grand spectacle. So this was painted in 1843. It's oil on canvas. It's not super big. It's only 38 by 9/16 by 50, or 38 and 9/16 by 50 1 inches, or 98 by 129 centimeters. And it's currently located in the Brooklyn Museum of Art. Um, and this painting, it's not Columbus asking for permission before his first voyage. It shows Columbus after his third voyage, when he had been arrested and returned to Spain in chains. And so, just a little background on that. So, Columbus was arrested in 1500 because reports reached the Spanish crown that he was badly mismanaging the colonies in the Caribbean, especially Hispaniola. Columbus had been made governor of the lands, but turned out to be a poor colonial administrator. Settlers complained that he and his brothers ruled harshly, punished people brutally, and failed to maintain order and mishandled supplies, labor, and gold production. There was also accusations that indigenous people were being enslaved and abused under his authority, but don't care about that.
I was about to say
Spanish,
we've booed our last who about all that, haven't we?
right? Yeah. The Spanish monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella, sent Francisco de Bobadilla to investigate. When Bobadilla arrived in Hispaniola, he found rebellion, executions, unrest, and widespread complaints against Columbus. And he arrested Columbus and his brothers and put them in chains and sent them back to Spain. Columbus was not executed or actually permanently disgraced. Ferdinand and Isabella released him, and he later made a fourth voyage, but his lost governorship and much of his lost his governorship and most of his political authority. So to sum it up, Columbus was arrested because the Spanish crown believed he had become a tyrannical, incompetent governor whose rule in the New World had produced chaos, rebellion, and abuse. But they
Well, I'm not a
ultimately let him
historian.
off,
I have
so it
no idea
wasn't
how
that
true
bad.
any of that might be. Do you?
Right.
I
I
just
think
don't
that
know.
there's well, I mean, because I think a lot of the academic sources are tainted. Um, but this was
Yeah.
a relatively because this is a scene from I mean, this was painted in 1843, so it wasn't like um Columbus had been colored so poorly through the lens of modern history like he is now.
Right.
Now modern academia looks down on Columbus as some horrible person, completely
But certainly
ignoring the
back then they didn't. Yeah.
no, no, yeah, not at all. So this was the third of six Columbus themed works he did. The previous works were Columbus before the Council of Salamanca, and in
Ooh.
1841, the return of Columbus in chains to Cadiz. The sequence is important because Leutze is not just casually choosing Columbus, he is developing Columbus as a repeated heroic subject, the visionary before skeptical authorities,
Hmm.
the humiliated explorer returned in chains, and the wronged figure confronting the monarchy.
Definitely sympathetic to the American myth at the time.
Hmm. And, this is Leutze treating Columbus as a hero
Hmm.
before Ferdinand and Isabella. So Columbus obviously stands in the center, dressed in dark clothing with a fur-trimmed garment, and he faces Ferdinand and Isabella, um, who are underneath a rich golden canopy,
And
surrounding court
notice the
watchers.
posturing of Columbus in all three of these paintings. He's not
Yeah,
broken, bending, kneeling. He is not in a subservient or weak position of posture in any of the paintings, in any of these
no,
three. He stands commandingly and heroically by posture, and I'm sure that's very much on purpose.
yeah, absolutely. It's part of Leutz's treatment of Columbus to make sure that he's seen and remembered as a heroic figure in history, kind of like he deserves. So the scene is really theatrical, and Columbus is kind of visually isolated as the moral center of the competition as a composition. And you can see in the foreground here, there's the chains on the ground, right at Columbus's feet,
Mhm.
and then there's a map being held by another person here in the crowd. Um, and the map reinforces his discoveries and his argument for vindication in the face of what he had done for the crown. Isabella's gesture with her hand to her head suggests kind of distress and shame, embarrassment and moral discomfort for what they have to do. And then the papal clerical figure over here in the red dress, or in red, he points to the role of the Catholic Church in Ferdinand and Isabella's Spain, because the Catholic Church was very prominent in Spain at the time. And the court setting makes this less like an action scene and more like a moral trial. Um,
Yeah.
he's being put on trial, and he is ultimately vindicated. Um, and it does feel like Isabella's embarrassed for what they're doing to him, and Ferdinand does kind of look like he looks a little aloof, like he's not paying a lot of attention, which would, I think, kind of track with the theme of it, in that Ferdinand and Isabella listened to their advisors and arrested Columbus on their word without really kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt. Now, now whether he was really a good governor or not, I think is one of those things that might be up for discussion. But his contribution to the West, to the discovery of with the discovery of America and with the expansion of the Western world, really can't be understated. So,
Yeah.
um, I like that Leutz has painted him as such a heroic figure here, and in all three of the paintings in the series so far.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
know,
And Columbus Day is one of the American holidays I actually like and support.
yeah,
One of the only ones.
he looks like a total Chad in all these pictures.
Yeah.
Columbus does. So we'll move on. So this is another painting, or a picture, a photograph of Leutz. So in the early 1840s, he was no longer just a promising young artist, but he was a serious painter on the Düsseldorf art scene. Leutz had made Columbus one of his early subjects, and of course that helped establish his ability to capture ambitious historical scenes. After his Dusseldorf training, he spent time studying major European art. Um, he went to Munich, where he studied work of a monumental German painters like Peter von Cornelius, who painted this scene. This is The Wise and the Foolish Virgins, painted in 1813.
Okay.
And also Wilhelm von Kaulbach, who painted this scene, This is the destruction of Jerusalem by Titus from
Oh, wow.
1846. Yeah, and this was
This
a big,
is a nice painting. Wow.
right?
How big is this? Like 8 feet by 12 feet? How big is this?
I'm not sure how big this is. It's a big
Or
because
8
it's like a fresco.
by 10, I mean.
So
It
yeah,
looks like it looks at least like 8 by 10. This is huge.
yeah, it's on the wall of or was done on the wall of a cathedral.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So
cool.
just a huge painting. And he also then traveled to Venice and Rome, where he studied the old masters, including Titian, who we talked about previously. This is the Assumption of the Virgin by Titian. This was painted in 1516.
Man, some of these cathedral frescoes are incredible. Wow.
They are absolutely amazing. Um, the uh, the faith and dedication it took to create so many of these works is really it's really and I'm not religious. I'm not I I I couldn't I couldn't in good faith call myself a Christian. Um but these are these paintings and these old works, like going through this series and studying all these old paintings from the Baroque era and the Renaissance, and seeing all these religious works really does it stirs a feeling in my chest. It definitely does draw me towards religious feelings and thinking, and and in a way, it makes me understand how the church was able to dominate back then
Yeah.
by just maintaining that hold on the public conscience. So along those lines, he also studied the works of Michelangelo, which this is the Pieta in
Mhm.
St. Peter's Basilica, and this was done in 1498. Um, just a phenomenal piece of marble, and it
This
shows
is this is this
Michelangelo's,
is great.
yeah, his mastery of the of the medium. Like
Yeah,
it just
absolutely.
it highlights what an amazing artist he was. So in 1845, he returned to Germany, where he married Juliane Lautner, who was the daughter of a military officer, and he settled into Dusseldorf family life, where he would remain for the next 14 years. And the marriage rooted him in the German art world, where just as his career as a history painter was taking off, and he and Julianne had several children, including Ida Marie Leutze, who's depicted in this painting. And this is called the Amber Necklace. He painted it of his wife and his daughter. It's a cute painting, so I brought it in here.
Yeah.
And also, one of his children was Eugene Henry Cozzens Leutze, who would become an admiral in the U.S. Navy.
Oh, interesting. Okay. What about
Yeah.
that?
So his family is not. They have deep ties to American history. Even though he was German and lived a good portion of his life in Germany, his family has you know deep ties to
It's
America.
almost like we were brothers and shouldn't have gone to war.
Right? Yeah, go figure.
Go figure.
So Dusseldorf was not only an important center for European Romantic artists, but it was a popular spot for American artists too. And Leutz became an important figure for traveling American artists. He helped them find places to live and work, and he offered as much support as he could. And really, he became a bridge between American artists and the German Romantic world. And then 1848 happened.
Yeah.
So in 1848, in springtime in 1848, this is often known as the springtime of the peoples. A series of revolutions kicked off across Europe, where many countries they rejected feudalism and monarchy and tried to, drawing on the American project, were trying to bring about their own constitutional republics. Socioeconomic transformations brought about increase by increasing industrialization, led to numerous revolutions across the continent. The people and governments of France, the German Confederation, the Austrian Empire, the Italian states, Denmark, Ireland, Moldavia, Wallachia, Greater Poland, and others underwent changes in political and social structure that remade the politics and borders of the nations. And while many of these revolutions ultimately failed, um, they would lead to a great many changes and reforms. Inspired by the Americans shrugging off of the chains of the English crown during the Revolution, Leutze he was a great supporter of these changes and wanted to help inspire the people. So this painting is one we talked about last week. This is Liberty Leading the People by Eugene Delacroix. Um,
Yeah, I've
and it
seen
was
this one before. This is
it,
pretty famous.
it's a really iconic image. And just a
Let me,
few things to point
can I
out
speak
that
on this painting? Oh, go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry,
absolutely,
sorry.
go for it. No, yeah, go
I
for it.
didn't know you weren't done. I didn't know you weren't.
Oh no,
Okay, well,
your floor's yours.
um, okay, I think that like I understand. Like I'm of different sympathies when it comes to the people, revolution, populism, etc. Knowing what I know now, and on the one hand, I am very sympathetic to there being some kind of power of the people against corrupt tyrants because that's what we live under now. But it is kind of funny knowing what we know now about who had their dirty little hands in all these revolutions and why, and the leading figure being bare titties and a woman. I just think that's kind of funny knowing what we know now and what we've seen the last 80 years.
God, yeah, no shit. Um, right. But that was, and that's it. Does in hindsight, we have the benefit of hindsight and looking at this.
Yeah.
Um, at the time when he painted this, when Delacroix painted this, it was meant to, and of course, I always think that a lot of artists are gooners in disguise. They'll take whatever opportunity they can to look at a pair of tits. Um, I mean,
I don't know if that makes him a gooner or not. I mean,
yeah,
men like
I don't,
breastises.
right. It's hard to condemn them for that, honestly.
Yeah, I mean,
But
it's like it's, it's different. Liking sexy ladies is different from being a gooner. Now, be fair. Be fair.
yeah, that's true. So, yeah, one thing to point out about this that I talked about last week was the variety of people in the painting. There's the guy in the top hat, and then the kid, and the man in the Frisian cap, along with the woman. They're you know crawling over the bodies of military dressed men. It really was meant to show that it was a people's revolution, a
Yeah.
revolution, a broad revolution of the people. So we'll move on to the
A
next
myth I
painting.
desperately want to believe in, but sadly know is false. Oh, I like this one. I
Yeah,
know what this is about.
this myth is a little easier to believe.
Yeah.
This is the storming of Teocalli by Cortés and his troops, painted in 1848. So this is an oil on canvas, and it's pretty large. It's 84 and a quarter by 98 and 3/4 inches, or 215 by 260 centimeters. And it's currently at the Wadsworth Atheneum Art Museum in Hartford, Connecticut. And of course, it shows Cortez and Hernan Cortez and the Spanish troops storming Mexica Aztec temple platform in
This is the Chad Spaniard meme. Excuse me, the cannibalism and blood sacrifices will stop.
Yes. And I think he kind of portrayed it like there's a little bit of that in here.
Yeah.
As the I mean, as you see, there's somebody in the background holding up a fucking baby over a fire. So it's not like a mother, rushing away with her child. It's like a priest getting ready to sacrifice a child. And
Yeah.
Cortez and his troops are intervening in the massacre, or intervening, probably trying to stop a lot of the barbarism.
Yeah.
So this was actually painted a year after the Mexican-American War, and it's subtly meant to represent the European triumph over the natives, civilizing the savage lands through force. So it totally shows that. It doesn't subtly show it in any way, actually.
Yeah.
And the scene itself is based on a book from William H. Prescott's 1843 book, The History of Conquest of Mexico, which was one of the major English language accounts of the conquest available to 19th century readers. And he's painting this through a literary lens because Prescott's book turned the conquest into a dramatic historical narrative, and Leutze takes that literary narrative and he turns it into this grand romantic spectacle here, where he's romanticizing the whole thing, the whole scene, and
It's good.
doing it.
Good. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it really
So
does draw
one
you
of the
in.
reasons why art is so important is people need a mythology. Like, not everything can just be cold and clinical and scientific. Like, this is why I support and think religion is very important. Regular people need things to believe in. Like, and one of the things that especially us older dissidents have learned is that feelings don't care about your facts. People's emotions and morals drive them more than any amount of factual evidence you can ever talk about. And this is why you need a strong mythology to have an identity as a people. And artwork is one of the best ways to reinforce that and support that in a positive way in your people.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I totally agree. Um, and in this, he turns the conquest of Mexico into a stage of violent historical destiny. Um, the painting is full of movement, and it's the movement and moment of conquest of Cortés over the Aztec people. The ceasing of the sacrifices, the halting of the s- the beginning of the civilizing of the people, through the sword or otherwise.
I think they could
And
use a bit more civilizing from what I see today. But that's a topic for a different time.
so on the topic of I guess historical myth, we'll jump over to the next painting, which is the most famous painting and one that everybody
Oh,
I,
yes.
everybody's seen this. I can't imagine a person who hasn't seen this.
I mean,
Um,
this was in my regular American history book when I was in high school. Like that, I didn't even have to go to art school to see this. Like this is really famous.
yeah, I'm pretty sure this was on the cover of one of my history books when I was in school.
Hell, it
Um,
might have been on the cover of my American history book. I
right?
had to take 3 classes of it in high school. Yeah.
It is one of the most enduring images of the American Revolution, and it was painted um, in 1851. It was painted, like 70 years after, almost 70 years after the events of this were to have happened. And this is a huge painting. It's 149 by 255 inches, or
Ooh.
378 by 647 centimeters. And this one is currently in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. And of course, it depicts the crossing of the Delaware River on December 25th, 1776, during the American Revolution, which was leading to the surprise attack and victory over the Hessian forces at the Battle of Trenton in New Jersey on the morning of December 26th. And it was painted in Düsseldorf, and he painted it as an inspiration to the revolutionaries in Germany.
Hmm.
It's not just a depiction of the American spirit, but of revolutionary endurance. And it shows that the revolution as a collective effort, with many men in the boat working in various capacities. Um, there's the guy up front who's pushing ice out of the way. There's guys. Oh, there's a bunch of guys rowing. There's a guy holding the flag, which the flag's a bit anachronistic because this flag wouldn't actually wasn't actually around during that time. And
Well, that's the one with the circle stars on it, I think.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That one
And
came about
also,
what? How many years later did that one happen?
oh, this was, I didn't write it down here, but I think it wasn't until closer to the 1800s that this flag was
Is that
actually
is that the
adopted.
Betsy Ross flag, the one with the circles? Let me look. Go ahead, you can keep talking.
So, um, in 1776, the American cause seemed fragile, but great men led us to victory. Great men like Washington, depicted in this inspiring scene. And it's one of the most iconic images of the revolution and one of the most commonly used and referenced by popular culture and media. There was actually 3 different copies of this painted. He painted the second
There we
one
go.
after a
The
studio
the
fire.
circle star flag there, the
Uh-huh.
circle star, that is the Betsy Ross one, and that came about in 1870.
1870. Okay, yeah. So it was over, it was a while later. Um but there's a few other things that are anachronistic about it too, because the boat itself is not it's not accurate to the boats that they would have used at that time. This boat really was meant to show he put him on a smaller boat to emphasize the collective struggle and the kind of fragility of the movement. So the he made the second one after a studio fire badly damaged the first one, which was restored. And then in 1942, the original painting was destroyed during an Allied bombing campaign during World War II. And then in January of 2002, this painting was defaced when a former Metropolitan Museum of Art guard glued a picture of the September 11th attacks to it.
Oh
Um,
no.
yeah, and
That's horrible.
right, what an asshole thing to do, but it was easily repaired. The damage wasn't bad, um, mostly because it's a giant painting and there's a lot of room to hide stuff.
Yeah.
So it's again like it's one of the most enduring images of the American Revolution, and was painted long after the revolution was done, and I think was done so to help inspire the various people who were rebelling against serfdom or doing
Mhm.
whatever they were doing, the uh
Yeah.
the revolutionary causes. And on that note, we'll jump over to the next one. Speaking of revolutionary causes, this is Mrs. Schuyler burning her wheat fields on the approach of the British, and it was
Mm.
painted in 1852. It's a smaller one. It's 32 by 40 or 81 by 101 centimeters, and this is currently in the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. So the subject is Catherine Van Rensselaer Schuyler, who often called Catherine Schuyler, who was the wife of General Philip Schuyler. She was part of the major New York family and connected to the revolutionary leadership around Saratoga. And the painting
Okay.
shows her setting fire to wheat fields so that the advancing British troops cannot use the crops. And that act of the burning of the wheat fields in this scene is usually connected to the Saratoga campaign of 1777, when British forces under General Bourguignon or Burgoyne advanced southward through New York. Um, Now, whether Catherine personally burned the wheat fields is kind of as depicted is kind of uncertain. But the British did burn down their house during the battle for Saratoga, so um, it wouldn't be surprising if she burnt the fields and they burnt her house down in response.
Yeah.
So the Washington's lesson is kind of that the revolution survives through heroic leadership, and this shows that the revolution also survives through civilian sacrifice and domestic courage, where sacrifice means setting fire to one's own livelihood rather than letting it feed the enemy.
Yeah. A based sentiment that resonates with us.
Yeah, yeah. So together, those two paintings, and it's easy for me to see how they capture that romantic spirit. the spirit that's meant to inflame passions and meant to inspire you in a way that some previous art movements weren't. Um, through the action in the scene and the color and the scene itself, it's not necessarily a depiction of, like Socrates or of Jesus or something like that. It's a depiction of people going through a struggle, um, in a more real sense.
Hmm.
And there's a lot of academic speculation as the inclusion of the slave in the image, but obviously slavery was a common at the time, and the Schuylers owned about 10 slaves according to historical records. So it's really just kind
Hmm.
of present dayism seeping into the academic interpretation.
Yeah.
Um, and and Lloyd's often inserted, black characters into a lot of his paintings. So
Well, I mean, I don't view that as like I would modern day pause where they have to shoehorn in nons. If you're
right,
Because remember, paintings back in before the modern era, it took a lot of work to make a painting, and it took even more work for people to see it going. People had to physically see it, and so you
right,
wanted it to be representative of what you wanted to show people. And if you want to show people reality, well, the reality was most people who were large landowners had slaves, serfs, that kind of thing, and it would be strange to leave them entirely out because they were such an integral part to running large properties. They would be there. They would be around. Like in the earlier paintings, like the Columbus paintings from hundreds of years before this one. I mean, the subject matter hundreds of years before this one. You had pages and servants and functionaries of the crown. Like those people were there because they would be there.
yeah. Yeah, so it wasn't that's why I say it wasn't like the present dayism where they're trying to put some heavy meaning into it. It's just life as it was.
Right.
So we'll move on. Let's see, we're doing good on time. We'll keep moving here.
Sure.
So during his Düsseldorf years, as I stated previously, he became an important support figure for American artists studying or working abroad. And he was also active in Dusseldorf's artist circles, including the Malkiston Art Association, which is a picture. That's what this is a print of, which was founded in a revolutionary atmosphere, in the revolutionary atmosphere of 1848. Before moving to Before moving to America, he was painting American memory from across the Atlantic. In 1859, he moved to the United States and he opened up a studio in New York City. And then he divided most of his time between his studio in New York and Washington, D.C. And after returning to the U.S., he painted portraits alongside with landscapes. Including in 1859, he painted a portrait of Chief Justice Roger Brooke Taney.
Oh,
Um, and this painting was made 2 years before or after the Dred Scott decision, which held that Black Americans of African descent were not entitled African descent were not entitled to full citizenship under the Constitution.
based.
Um, and if I recall correctly, or if I the painting is still this is not the painting. This is an actual photograph of the guy, but the
Hmm.
painting itself is still hung up in um, at Yale. So he also
So,
painted portraits
just
of
to
go ahead.
clarify, this is a photograph of the painting.
No, this is a photograph of the man.
Okay. Do we
I
have a
cou-
picture
I
of the
couldn't
painting?
find it. I couldn't find a copy of the painting online.
Oh, oh, damn.
And
Okay, all right.
I would
Because I was about to
imagine
say this is very realistic for a painting. It looks like a photograph.
right? Well, I would imagine that a lot of the because that Dred Scott decision is so controversial, especially with modern academics, that
Oh,
that
right. Of course. You're right.
yeah, it's hard to find a lot of pictures of him that aren't. There's like 3 or 4 pictures online of the guy, and there's a couple of painted images, but I couldn't confirm that any of them were the ones that Lloyd's painted. So I just kept the photograph in here to
Okay. Okay.
he also painted portraits of his fellow artists, and he painted William Morris Hunt, um, who was another kind of famous American landscape painter. And then in 1860, Leutze was commissioned by U.S. Congress to decorate a stairway in the Capitol. And this led to the creation of Westward, The Course of the Empire Takes Its Way in 1861. So in the early 1850s, Leutze made Leutze the painter of a revolutionary memory. And then in the late 1850s and early 1860s, it made him a painter of national destiny. And this next major work shifts from revolution survival to the heart of a growing nation and to the
Hmm.
spirit that conquered the West and made America the nation we were meant to be. And we'll jump over to that now.
Oh wow, this is great.
Yeah, I saw this and I was like, I,
I love the
it,
border. The border is incredible too.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
this is great.
it's a phenomenal painting. And this is, of course, the Westward, The Course of the Empire Takes Its Way. It was painted between 1861, started in 1861 and finished in 1862. And it's a, stereochrome mural painting, and it measures 20 by 30 feet. Or
Wow.
it's huge, 6 by 9 meters. I mean, it decorates a stairway in a stairway in Congress. It's still there today.
Fantastic.
It's in the west stairway of the House Wing in DC.
Boy, it pleases me to know that all the anti-white, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on your channel, but all the anti-white scumbags have to look at this every day in Washington. That makes me happy.
Yeah. Well, and there's a
I bet
lot
they
to
hate
this.
I bet
Oh,
they
bet
hate
they
having
do.
to look at this.
I bet they do. I bet this pisses off a lot of people when they see it. But it is
Good.
really, like, to me, it captures the spirit of the time and the spirit of pilgrimage and the spirit of expansion that the country was founded on. And of course, that banner at the top is really striking to me. Westward, the course of the empire takes its way. Um, let's see, it shows a group of pioneers, settlers, guides, wagons and mules, and families moving westward through rugged terrain. They're not shown as scattered individuals, but kind of as a collective movement, like a pilgrimage. The group pushes through difficult terrain, pushes through difficulty towards a glowing destination in the distance, towards a greater destiny in the uncivilized Western lands. And the title comes from a famous line from philosopher and bishop George Berkeley's 1752 poem, Verses on the Prospect of Planting Arts and Learning in America. And the full stanza, I'll read it here, is Westward, the course of the empire takes its way. The first 4 acts already past. The fist shall close the drama with the day. Time's noblest offspring is the last.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, it's really good. There's just to me, it's an incredibly inspiring painting. And the phrase really expresses an imperial idea that civilization, power, and learning and destiny move westward across history.
Hmm.
America adapted this idea into the language of manifest destiny later. And the belief that United States was destined to expand across the continent, which it was. Um, although
Yeah,
they can
nobody can
have
argue.
California back. Uh, we'll give them California back. They can take that, and we'll stop there.
No, we don't. We don't give them nothing. No, we take it back and make it ours again.
Yeah, that would be ideal. So the title of the painting is not neutral. It tells you, the viewer, how to interpret the painting. That the westward movement is not random migration. It's the forward march of civilization and empire. And the painting was started the same year the Civil War started. And the moment the country was splitting apart, and the work was meant to show a unified destiny of our nation. And the people in the mural aren't conquerors. They're builders, families, workers, and
Mhm.
pioneers carrying the American project forward.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can zoom in a bit just on the on this border, this top border. It's the the decorations along the edge of the painting are such a great detail. Um, with the like it's almost kind of a rococo style. um Damn, trying to think of the word. um the adornment on the side there um really frames the painting well and gives it overall a more kind of grand and beautiful look. The image at the bottom of the great, like the great harbor, is also a really beautiful and inspiring picture as well.
Mhm.
There's a lot of different people in here, uh, scattered throughout, and it has a diverse cast of American people in it. And again, he also
I saw
included,
the Crockett figure
yeah,
there with
Dave,
his coonskin cap.
yeah, um, like prospectors, miners, pioneers, families, um, people moving forward towards destiny under the American banner, trying to again expand the American project and help flesh out our nation and bring it to what it is now. Let's see, we're coming towards the end. We'll jump over to the last few slides here. So after completing Westward, the course of the empire takes its way in November of 1862. Leutze really had reached the most public stage of his career. He had moved from moved from a young immigrant portraitist to a painter whose work occupied the United States Capitol. Which through hard work and dedication, you could kind of call that the American dream. He
Yeah. Mhm.
through his merits and his dedication and love for the country, he made it so his work made it all the way to the Capitol. His vision and love for the country really made him a truly iconic painter of American history and national destiny. He became associated with major American art institutions and civic circles. Late in life, he became a member of the National Academy of Design, which is in this building here, and he was connected with the Union League Club of New York, which is this building here. In 1862, at the age of 52, he died of heat stroke in Washington, D.C., and he's currently interred at the Glenwood National Cemetery in Washington, D.C. And many of
What a
his
legend.
final works, absolutely. And he didn't, those weren't the only paintings he did of American Destiny. Those are just the ones I chose for today because, uh, we have limited time. I could talk about
Yeah.
this for hours, but I want to keep it succinct. So many of his final works were tributes to grand historical events like the signing of the Alaska Treaty, which is another painting here, and
Oh, I
of
like this one. This
national.
is good. I like the use of color in this one.
Yeah, it's a another good it's another good historical a good capturing of a historical image, showing you know an interesting slice of people back then
Mhm.
with the mutton chops, uh,
Yeah.
those those big fluffy mustaches, but
Oh, they're
also
great.
he's got the American flags all over the place, which would be standard, and it's a cozy scene. Um,
Mhm.
the lighting in the background and everything, and the globe and the big
The
globe in the
reflection of
middle with
of the chandelier is really nice. I like that.
yeah, yeah, it's got a lot of great lighting to it. Um, which just shows what a masterful painter he was. You know, the lighting angles are all consistent. All of the guys have consistent lighting angles on their faces if you really look in on it. He also continued to paint his friends and other artists like Worthington Wetridge, or
Oh, I
Whitridge.
like this one. This is great.
Yeah, and this guy was another kind of iconic American artist. And he actually posed as Washington for this painting. So that dude is
That's
actually
some
the
good
one who
trivia.
posed for Washington. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
That's cool.
At the time of his death, he was working on a painting called The Emancipation of the Slaves, which was a tribute to the post-Civil War unification of the United States, although he never finished it. And his legacy is not that he painted historically exactly as it happened. His legacy is that he painted history in a way that nations remember it. Dramatic, symbolic, heroic, and charged with meaning. From Washington crossing the Delaware to the pioneers moving westward through the mountains, Leutze really gave visual form to the romantic belief that history is shaped by courage, sacrifice, and the will to build something and participate in something greater than yourself.
Unbelievably based.
Yeah, a fantastic. It's a fantastic story, and I really, his paintings have really moved me, because they, he was someone who kind of grew up in America or lived in America as a child, and then, as an adult moved to Germany and still held romantic feelings towards America and the American project, and did a great job of expressing those in a very emotionally charged way, which I think is what really ties him down as a romantic artist. It's not the flourishing colors, although he does have a brilliant use of colors, but it's nothing, um, and it's nothing kind of like abstract at all. He's painting, you know, ostensibly real events in a romantic way, in an effort to stir the spirit within the viewer. And so that is Emanuel Leutze, um, German American artist. Next week, we're going to be shifting gears a little bit. We're still going to be talking about an artist from the 18th century, but we're going to be talking about Gustave Moreau, who was a symbolist painter from the early 19th century. A pretty big shift from symbolism or from romanticism to symbolism. But he painted some really phenomenal scenes and did some phenomenal work. And I think he really needs to be looked at. And so that's what we're doing next week. And I believe Bleach will be back for that. If not, this thumbnail will change and I'll have somebody else in there because I've already started writing this presentation and I'm going to fucking do it next week, whether he's here or not. So
Good on you. Good on you.
So that's been episode 10 from season 2 of the Autist Circle. I would like to thank you for joining me, Yiz. I really do appreciate it.
Well, I had a great time. It was really fun. I love Emanuel Leutze's work. And like I said earlier in the stream, it's absolutely critical to have that vision, that mythology, and that energy preserved and celebrated in meaningful pieces of art. And I'm very thankful for Leutze's contribution to my ethnic identity as an American and as a Southerner. I appreciate it.
And so that's it for now, folks. We'll be back same time next week, and have a great one. Oh yeah.
Good night.
And love your folks and love your people and love your heritage.
Absolutely. God bless.